Is to miss a lot. Thanks so much. Thanks for calling. And let's face it, you've got friends on Facebook. And I'll tell you what, I kind of wanted to talk today about some of the things that everybody seems to be experiencing in their lives along with this pandemic. Now, today on the show, I've got Pamela Joy. She's here to share and educate us on, I want to call it TBI.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Traumatic brain injury. So, Pam, thank you so much for joining us today. We've got so much to go over. But first, let's take a moment right now and talk about Coca's Pizza.
Sounds delicious.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your favorite play, come and dine with us and watch it live. At Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland, or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
Gotta love Coca's. And
Making
you can
me
go there
hungry.
and watch it live too. Watch all the football games live. So I want to thank you, Pam. I know coming to the show today, it takes a lot. And it takes a lot to talk about this. You were recently engaged.
Yes.
His name was Derek.
Yes.
And you've lost him, what, 7 weeks ago, we were saying?
Yeah, July 21st.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So in talking about this traumatic brain injury, people don't realize what exactly is involved with a traumatic brain injury. And you living with him and living the life of this traumatic brain injury, give us some information that's vitally important that we really should know about.
Yeah, there's so many things that can happen to a person and to the ones around them when they have this type of an injury. Derek's was caused by a car accident 13 years ago. He was in a coma for an entire month. There wasn't even a high probability he was going to wake up from the coma.
What did the doctors say was his expectancy?
They basically told his parents that if he ever regained consciousness on his own, which they highly doubted, they would need to look into skilled placement. He would be nearly vegetative. He would likely never be able to do things on his own again. He would have to relearn everything. But, you know, the nurse that was there, who nurses oftentimes are so much more involved in patient care than the physicians are, told his parents not to give up, to keep talking to him, to let him know that they hadn't given up on him, to come in, and they did every day for a month. He finally did wake up. He started talking. He, eventually was able to progress from being critical over to being in rehab, to going home, to living a normal life, as normal as someone can with
A traumatic brain injury.
traumatic brain injury.
Now,
Yes.
I guess maybe we should back up a little bit. How did he inherit this traumatic brain injury? Because he wasn't born with it, of course. So
Right.
there was something that happened
Yes.
that caused this.
Yes, he was a passenger in a car accident, and the car ran into the back of a flatbed tow truck. The injury from the impact of the tow truck to his head is what caused it. It's called a diffuse multi-layer brain injury, basically meaning that every part of his brain suffered deep injuries, like not just on the surface, like down into, the tissue, which makes it more difficult to treat. And the life expectancy is so much less. Like patients that survive it all, their life expectancy, only like 50% of them survive 5 years past
Oh my.
a brain injury like that. And a brain injury doesn't have to just come from a car accident. A brain injury can come from a stroke. It can come from a concussion, any strong blow to the head.
These football players now with these helmets.
Yes,
That could cause it
absolutely.
as well.
And that's why such the big concern about repeated concussions, repeated, trauma, because not every person that gets a concussion is going to end up that way, obviously, but those that do, that's something, people think brain injury, all they think of sometimes is a car accident or a big fall. It can be so many other things that you need to be, cautious of.
Falling down the stairs, falling
Yes.
over a sidewalk,
Absolutely.
you name it. A car falling off of a bike, falling off of a
Anything that-
motorcycle.
That would cause like a loss of consciousness
Okay.
can be, determined as that.
And once you start having these, I don't want to say a seizure, but once you I guess it would be considered a
Yeah,
seizure.
for sure.
The longer they last, the worse they are.
For sure. And it depends on how severe. Some people have a brain injury and they just get some memory loss or maybe some personality changes or things like that. In Derek's case, he developed post-traumatic epilepsy.
Okay.
So he developed epilepsy from the brain injury. He wasn't born that way. It was a direct result of the injury caused by the car accident.
And his was kind of a different case, though. They really didn't, from us talking, off camera, they really didn't understand his case, did they?
No, because they didn't expect him to survive it, let alone, so now you have someone that was injured so severely that by all medical, knowledge and expectations shouldn't have even woken up from the coma. Now what do you do? Because
so he was in a coma for how long?
A month.
And they didn't expect him to wake up.
Nope. They were, preparing his family basically to have to make some decisions, like how long are you going to let him
live
stay
at
like
state.
this,
Yes.
And thankfully, the amazing people that his parents and family are, they never gave up on him, ever. So, and he knew that, and he was stubborn. They should have known he wasn't going to go out like that.
Right. So I guess we can fast forward now to the brain injury. He had to relearn everything like as if he was in an infant state then, correct?
I think that there were some things he definitely had to relearn. Talking, he was okay, like he was able to speak and everything like that. But I know as far as motor skills, like walking and things like that, that required the use of just being in a bed for a month is enough to where you're not going to be stable to get up and move around.
Your muscles tend to.
And his memory was so poor. And
you say that after every seizure that somebody has, you lose more and more memory loss.
Yeah, if it's the big seizures like the ones you see in the movies, like if they last less than 5 minutes, the damage is minimal, if any. But the kind Derek had, and I'll explain after I say it, but they're status epilepticus seizures. So they're like the seizures you see in the movies, but his do not stop on their own. He has to have medical intervention to stop the seizure. He often has to be put on a breathing tube, a ventilator.
Okay.
Because his body he quits breathing during the seizure.
Right.
And sometimes he has to be sedated. Sometimes that lasts 12 hours, sometimes a couple of days. It depends on how quickly he would kind of rally and pull himself back together. But then even after they took the tubes out and let him wake up, he often had no memory. He never had a memory of the seizure, but he would look at me and not know who I was. He would not know who his mother was. He would not know where he was. Sometimes he wouldn't know what his own name was.
And how long does that last?
It depends. If you can figure out a trick, like a trick that I had with him was, there were certain things that I just knew were significant to him that he could connect to me. Like, you have to make a connection. So I would bring up like a nickname I had for him, which was Wheels, because he often ended up in a wheelchair and he was not happy about it. So when I called him Wheels, like, humor was huge with Derek.